My name is Darcy Rumble from Effect Hope, and it's my absolute pleasure to be joined today by Sugith Varughese, best known as Mr. Mehta on the hit sitcom Kim's Convenience, also currently appearing as Dr. Singh in the hospital drama series Transplant. Mr. Varughese, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation. So to start, Effect Hope is one of Canada's oldest charities. We've been around in operation over 130 years, but most people just think of leprosy as an ancient disease from thousands of years ago, but it still affects so many people. It's still relevant and exists today. And you have a story of a personal connection that you have to leprosy work.
Well, my father was a doctor in India before he came to Canada when I was a baby. He became a neurosurgeon in Canada, but in India, after he graduated medical school, his first posting, one of the first postings he had was in a leprosy community.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, a leprosy colony, I guess they called it then. And I've seen pictures of him at work, and I've seen, small grainy pictures of patients. And so ever since I was a little boy, I've had a real interest in leprosy as a condition and the people who are faced with that because my dad worked with them.
Hmm. And I imagine him receiving that posting wasn't something he would be too excited about, as there's kind of such a stigma and people want to keep their distance from people with leprosy. How did he do?
Actually, on the contrary, he wanted to go.
That's
Uh,
incredible.
I think, because he came from I mean, he's a doctor. He knew what it was, and he also knew what it wasn't, and so I think that he was prepared for the experience. I think he was really interested in treating leprosy patients, and he was interested to see what that would be, and he wanted to make a difference, and he wanted to put his newfound medical degree to good use. So my memory of him telling me about it was that there was never any uh, uh, hesitation on his part to go there. He was actually quite keen, and it was something that he was very proud of that he did at the start of his career.
That's incredible. Yeah. And so how long was he serving in the leprosy
I think it
colonies?
was only a few months. I think maybe 6 months or so that he was there. It was, I think it was the kind of position that was hard to recruit
Hmm.
doctors to go to. So they got the new medical school grad and offered him it's like a temporary job. He said, hey, go here for 6 months and then you can get to do something else. And so that was sort of the condition of employment. But yeah, he spent the first part of his career as a newly graduated doctor working with leprosy patients.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. And do you recall any stories of or that he shared of anything that stood out, either highlights or lowlights, or things that
Well,
he
he
carried with
told
him?
he told us, and I mean he's using the language of when he was young, which was it was a leper colony, and it was there was a real stigma with these people, and it was sort of considered a dangerous place to be and to go to, and he was considered kind of taking his life in his hands, going there, and all this sort of thing, and he didn't feel like that was the case. He felt it was more of a um, uh, medical activity for him, and he was just really keen to understand and help, hopefully, these people. And I'm not sure if it was a full-time position. I think he may have been posted to a community that had one of these colonies there, so he had other, but so I think there was some issue around, whether how long he'd been there recently, and whether the other patients that he would be dealing with were scared or whatever. So there was
Hmm.
that kind of thing that he had to, manage. But
For sure.
it was a real. My feeling is that it was a real life-changing experience for him as a doctor to go to this community at the beginning of his career. And it really, I think it affected how he treated all patients from then on. He was a very reserved person in his personal life, and kind of reserved with me as my father. But I got the chance to go see him with patients. I was in my 20s, and I went on rounds with him, and I saw that part of him that was really compassionate, really patient, listening to all these patients and their families' concerns, and never, getting impatient or interrupting or cutting them short. Like, he just let them express how they felt and what they were worried about, and he, did his best to reassure them in terms of what he was going to be able to do. And I think that working in that community at the start of his career is a direct um, uh, precursor of that kind of bedside manner, if you
Hmm.
will.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and probably so then did he come right to Canada to work after that
No,
or
he worked as a doctor in India for sub 3 or 4 years, and then he applied to Canada to get his neurosurgery training. So he came here
okay.
to train as a neurosurgeon.
Wow. Yeah, and then I'm sure, yeah, just such a difference in healthcare and equipment and availability in Canada, but very
Well, yeah, I mean, that's obviously why he was coming. He wanted to come to
mhm,
Canada, to the U.S. to do his specialization in neurosurgery. Um, but there was, I think there was something about medicine that is universal,
mhm,
and patients are patients wherever you go, and I think that he was dealing with patients with similar, um, stigmas and life-threatening uh, issues in Canada as much as he did in India, and whether they had leprosy, or he became a brain surgeon, so he wasn't dealing with leprosy much
mhm,
anymore. But he was dealing with people who were um, living, or if they were going to live, it was because of what he was going to do for them. So, I think that that kind of weight on the fate of people's lives is really something that he carried with him, and the compassion that he had, um, sort of balanced the. You sort of have to have a kind of real confidence in what you're going to do if you're going to be a brain surgeon, or any kind of doctor,
yeah,
and that with some people in the medical profession can come across as very arrogant and very, God complex, or knowing more, whatever. And I think that his early years working with patients who were really, had nowhere else to turn. I mean, a colony of people with leprosy. I mean, they're not able to go to the hospital. They're not able
mhm,
to, and I think that starting his career with that kind of interaction affected how he treated all patients from then on. And for what it's worth, I think the Canadian patients in Canada who were under his care benefited from all those leprosy patients that he had to treat when he was 25 years old.
mhm, sounds like it. That's amazing. Yeah, and I love hearing, yeah, how that kind of informed his work and his approach after that. And so what would you hope that Canadians hearing your story right now would be able to take from this? Just an understanding of leprosy or compassion or
Yeah,
yeah.
I hope that people realize that leprosy is real. It's a medical condition, and it is something that can be treated. It doesn't. It's not, mild. It's not. It's not something little, but that those people with leprosy deserve our compassion and respect, and the people trying to treat them need our support. And they're real. My dad did it.
Hmm.
So it's not some kind of, we have perhaps a mythology around leprosy because it's kind of an ancient disease, and it's mentioned in the Bible, and there's all these things around it that maybe people don't really know what it is and take it seriously. But it's not it's not exotic. It's actually not from the Bible. It's a medical condition, and people are doing their best to help those with it. And my father was one of them.
Hmm. That's amazing. Oh, thank you so much for sharing with us. Yeah, I think I couldn't have said any of that better myself. It's real and it's affecting people now. And yeah, just hearing your experience and hearing from your father and his experience just helps put it in so much more of a real and current context for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people listening to this. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for sharing, and hope we can do this again sometime. And again, I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being with me, Sugith. Thanks.
Well, thank you for asking me. It's my father's no longer with us, and so having the chance to even remember and think about what he went through at the start of his career has been nice for me to do. So thank you for asking.
That's awesome. All right, thank you so much.